Ancient Agenda Radio. Hello, welcome to Ancient Agenda. My name is Fred Robinson, I'm from Australia, and today I have here with me, as usual, JD and John.
To you from the Sonoran Desert.
Okay, hey guys. So today we are going to discuss Zecharia Sitchin, who was born in July 1920 and died kind of recently back in 2010. He is a Russian-born American author of books proposing an explanation for human origins involving ancient astronauts. Sitchin attributes the creation of ancient Sumerian culture to the Anunnaki, which he states was a race of extraterrestrials from a planet beyond Neptune called Nibiru. He believes this hypothetical planet of Nibiru to be an elongated elliptical orbit in the Earth's own solar system, asserting that Sumerian mythology reflects this. We are not the only ones who disagree with Sitchin's ideas. They have been rejected by scientists and academics who dismiss his work as pseudoscience and pseudohistory. His work has been criticized for flawed mythology and mistranslations of ancient texts, as well as for incorrect astronomical and scientific claims. So tonight we will continue the discussion of whether Sitchin's work was correct or not. Now I'm just going to throw to John here, who has a little bit more information on the life and being of Zecharia Sitchin himself.
Yes, thank you, Fred. Dr. Michael Heiser has long been a vocal critic of Mr. Sitchin. Back in the late 90s, he was invited to be a guest on the Art Bell show. Excuse me. He was asked if he would debate Mr. Sitchin live on the show, and apparently Mr. Sitchin never took the offer. In a recent book titled Anunnaki Chronicles, which is written by Zechariah's niece after his death, she says that her uncle's interest in the topic of ancient civilizations and human origins, derived from the reading of Hebrew Bible in its original Hebrew, and then comparing what he read to common English translations that more times than not skewed the meaning. So most biblical scholars and archaeologists deem ancient writings to be allegorical, myth, or legend. No matter what the source, the Bible or Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Egyptian, Greek, or Roman, Zechariah's promise was this: what if these ancient tales are not legend or myth or allegory? What if they are history? Now, this is a great question within the context of advanced ancient civilizations and what they knew. In exploring ancient history, it hinges on the research, on the level and depth of the research, and in some cases, the interpretations of what, of what earlier mentioned civilizations were relating in their ancient writings and steles, something we will be talking about. So his niece also relates that Mr. Sitchin's words were always carefully chosen during his presentations so that he would not put forth any idea that he didn't have evidence for a firm conclusion for how his theory fit into the story of the Anunnaki. Some of his more ardent readers and followers often asked him to put forth theories by other authors and scholars, or to comment on the aspects of a particular civilization that he hadn't researched or written about, or for what he had not formed a solid conclusion on. In these times, he always declined to comment. So one can only wonder why a man who took so much pride in his research appeared perhaps insecure in debating it. So right now, I think we'd like to start with our first investigation into Sitchin. And we're going to take a look at the Sumerian solar system.
Well, before we get into that, we have a member asking for the link to listen to the radio station. So, Fred, you can pop on Facebook and just post a link for them.
Yes, yep. Can
Please
do.
that.
Uh,
Okay, great. And John and I'll interrupt while you're doing that, and then you can take over when you come back. Carry on, John.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that one has to be curious about why Sitchin, a man who was competent in his deliveries, secure and excuse me, not secure, but confident and well studied, well researched. Why he would never debate anybody or even take questions during his presentations.
That's a great question, because if you believe in your research, the first thing you want to do is debate it. You want to prove it is what you say it is. That's what research is all about, proving what you have found. So when you're entered into a debate or asked a serious question in regards to your theory, answering it is the only option. If you don't, you're showing you don't believe in your own theory. You don't have an answer for the belief of your own theory. And that's what it comes. It looks like from Zecharia Sitchin, he's never answered the questions to the theory he provided. Every time he's been asked, he's not taken the challenge.
Yes, and that's amazing because he wrote his first book in 1978, and this was pretty close to going on 40 years before he was asked to debate on the Art Bell show.
It is really sad to see that people are, willing to bring out this kind of information, assert that it's true, and when you know they've realised that it's not true, they won't pull it from the shelf. They won't turn around and say, look, I admit that my work is flawed and it may not possibly be true. They just insist and keep on pushing it out there and try and make money. It's
That's
wrong.
how you distinguish between a truth seeker
and a money maker.
Who's trying to line their pockets, or looking for fame, that 5 minutes of fame or whatever it is. A truth seeker will be happy you've shown that person where they went wrong in their theory. Because either that's going to make it stronger, or they're going to have to throw it away and look at something else. But the key, that's like being caught in a lie, but you continue to say no, it's not a lie, right?
One of the reasons,
because you said so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Sitchin's a liar or anything like that. I'm just saying that if you're not going to back up your claims, then you wear the tag of being a liar. You're not backing up your claims.
Yeah.
So you look false. Because
Sitchin's been claimed by many people that he's a disinformationist, and that a lot of that comes back to him being a 33-degree Freemason. Do you think that has any part in this?
I think that's a possibility. It seems like he tried to hide his Masonic membership.
Because we know that the Freemasons do, edit and change things for their own self-interest and group's interest and stuff, so it's just something they've always done.
He could have been taken under their tutelage and asked to present some information which wasn't exactly truthful.
They could have easily convinced him it was true, or he could have convinced himself it was true. He may have believed in his own work. That's the other thing, is, people say that he's a disinformationist, and it could have just been accidental, and he believed in it and refused to even look at anything that, disputed it because he just didn't want to know the truth.
I believe that, Fred. There's a lot of people that do that. They don't want to know that their research is wrong.
They've put a lifetime's, effort in there, and they've written books, and imagine having to pull all that down and go, oh, gee, sorry guys, but everything I've done for the last 20 years or whatever was wrong. Surely, I can imagine it's not easy, but still, wouldn't you rather, people at least know the truth than, keep trying to sell them a lie?
Well, again, that comes back to being, are you a virtual truth seeker, or are you just looking for fame and fortune.
Mm.
That's, and if you're looking at fame and fortune, well, you should be writing, different types of books, not these kind, not passing as fact when it can be proven that it's not fact. And unfortunately, with Zecharia Sitchin's work, when he first produced it, there wasn't anybody that could go against his work and say, no, you're wrong. Today there is. Today there's many that have studied cuneiform, Samaritan text, and they know what the words are. There's a database on the internet now, so anybody can go look up the words.
Yeah, with the advent of the internet, it's really changed things. It's changed things so that just the average person can question these things and look for themselves now, which right. It makes it harder for anybody to sort of bring out some information, and unless they're very well researched, because anybody's information can be criticized and verified to an extent.
Right. If you miss something, it gets picked apart in today's society.
Yes.
When it comes to history, it doesn't matter what it is in history. If there's a verification to what you're talking about, it will be picked apart to show whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah. So
and that's what basically happened with Zecharia Sitchin over the last 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Because there have been other scholars who've learned to read cuneiform, and they've read his material and said, well, these words aren't even in cuneiform. So where did they come from? And now with a database collection of the words themselves, anybody can look at.
So with the word...
find out what's real and what's not real.
Yeah.
But the problem is, people don't take the time to go and do the research on their own. They read something and they believe it.
They read the title, they read the headline, don't even open the article, and generally the headlines are sort of there as a, as a catch, as an eye catcher. You know what I mean? They're not quite accurate, and they're sometimes misleading.
A lot of times nowadays, the article title is not even mentioned in the article.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it.
Or you open up the link and it's just a couple of pages and a paragraph written there, But so with the cuneiform and Sitchin's translation of the word Anunnaki, which he refers to as the reptilians, lizard people. Now he mistranslated that by connecting 3 different cuneiform words or something. Is that right? One of you have a better explanation on that?
When you follow Sitchin's work, you'll notice that he interprets a lot of his cuneiform by religious texts in Scripture also. He refers back to what Scripture is saying and uses the interpretation from cuneiform to verify it, is what he does. So with the word Anunnaki, he used 3 different words and formed a word to create a character. But the 3 different words didn't really mean what he was saying, although they can be seen that way under the misinterpretation of what the words actually say.
Yeah.
Anunnaki is through 3 words. One word is Anna, and the second word is Nu, and the third word is Ki. And
right.
They all mean a different word, but when they're put together in Zecharia Sitchin's language, it came out as gods of the sky, which were interpreted as astronauts from a different planet coming to visit us. We call them aliens.
There is a question here actually in the chat. If you guys want to leave a question, you can do that in Spreaker here. There's a chat box that comes with it, or on the group page or something, on our Ancient Agenda group page there. There's plenty of places to leave a comment. Now, we've got the question from Robert. Why are they planets and not Anunnaki and why does Saturn have two faces? So,
why are there planets in
what?
Not and Nuna?
Why
I
are
just
they
wanted to know
planets?
why the
And
feature, why the
with the picture that
human-like
you've
Oh,
posted
in the still that we
in the
posted?
still that we posted, yep.
Okay.
Why are they planets, and why? Meaning that they're not Anunnaki, and why does Saturn have two faces?
Okay. Some really good questions there. Why are they planets and not Anunnaki? Well, when you understand ancient mythology, and you've seen the drawings from ancient mythology and how they correlate them to astronomy, the head of Mercury is a dead giveaway for Mercury. Now, the sun, of course, would be the god, and he's seated, which all gods are. And the god of our solar system would be the sun. Without our sun, our solar system is nothing. Earth is a frozen ball of ice hurtling through space. Saturn, the double face of Saturn, that would have to come from mythology. I don't really understand why a double face, unless it's referring to Saturn turning around. But when you get into ancient mythology, oral tradition, and all that, every culture across the planet revered the other planets of our solar system and saw them as gods. And as gods, they always depicted them as a human-shaped form. So they were given a body, because planets are bodies in motion. So they drew these in a humanoid figure, showing a body in motion of a planet, and why they referred to them as gods. The names that they gave them referred to what the planets were. This is seen throughout history in different cultures. It's very obvious in different styles. It's all obvious throughout Egyptian hieroglyphs. You see it in petroglyphs. It's in their oral traditions, and they refer to what these drawings are. So we've, in the last 30 years, changed that to a different religion, if you want to call it that, because it's all a religion from the basis of the beginning of the oral traditions turning into a religion, changing from the original interpretation of them being planets of bodies and motions to then being referred to as angels and demons, to now being referred to as Anunnaki and aliens, but original traditional or folklore speaks of the planets as the bodies and motions of the gods of our solar system. And so they depicted them that way. That's what we're looking at now. The Earth and Moon's obvious for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, Sitchin had a large sort of variety, and the reason we called this show Sitchin's Scripture Scandal. What we mean by Scripture is sort of all ancient text, cuneiform, and the Bible and everything. He sort of put his fingers into a little bit of everything because of the changes that he was proposing in history. It sort of chain reacted in its own way. So his understanding is that the Anunnaki, the lizard people, the reptilians, live on a planet called Nibiru, which is currently in an elongated circle around our sun, and is quite stretched, so it only comes around. What is the circular time frame for Nibiru? How often does it come round?
According to Sitchin, 3,600 years.
Right. So it comes around every 3,600 years. Now, when it gets close enough, apparently the Anunnaki are able to planet jump. Not just by jumping in the air and landing on Earth, but, you know, with spaceships or rockets or whatever it be, at the distances, they wait for the shortest gap so they can get there. So apparently they came here in the past. Please correct me, guys, if I'm wrong. Apparently they came here, you know, in the distant past, and they wanted to mine gold here so that they can save their own planet. So they grabbed all their technology and sophistication, came all the way here, decided they didn't actually want to do the hard work for themselves, so they genetically altered monkeys to become a slave race in order to mine gold for the reptilians. Now, is that a good sort of summary of what Sitchin's proposing?
That's the basic idea.
Yep.
Yes.
That's you got the basic there. The facts are Sitchin refers to the Anunnaki coming here from their planet Nibiru approximately 438,000 years ago.
Yep.
This is when it supposedly happened.
Right.
And
right, and apparently they started mining, but they found the labor too intensive, and so they they thought, well, we see some ape-like creatures on this planet. Maybe we can enhance them. We can bioengineer these creatures.
Let's say for what it is, John. Let's say for what it is. Gene assisted. Right back to Genesis in the Bible. Because that's where Sitchin took it from. So gene assisted. There was a species, came from a different planet, who came here and took a species on our planet and gene assisted them. Go ahead, finish.
Right. So they created these primitive humans, right? First human-like peoples. And as the story goes, they enslaved these people to do the mine work. Toil in the mines, I believe, is what Sitchin said. And that story kind of makes sense a little bit from his perspective. But, you know, you got to kind of wonder if these these newly created ape men were actually capable of mining, right?
Well, that's the other thing. Mining seems to be something that's advanced technology. Yeah, we've done it for thousands of years, but
there's also a braveness in it, you know what I mean? To genetically engineer someone brave enough to crawl into a hole. I've seen some of the old mine shafts, and a lot of them, they used kids to go in there, and women and stuff, because they were smaller. They didn't actually build big caves and stuff. They would just tunnel thin tunnels, so they're laying on their stomach and crawling into these things in pitch black and mining by hand, you know.
If we're looking at this species for the way Sitchin explains this species, they're an intelligent species. They're highly advanced intelligent species. So therefore, they've manipulated the DNA of a species on this planet to do their labor for them. So if you think about this logistically, in a logistic thought pattern, here we have an intelligent species to create another species to do an intelligent task. That doesn't make sense. It's the intelligent task, the intelligent species that would do the intelligent task. They would create the lower species to do the lower task. So what I'm really getting at is, yes, if this specific species got lazy with all their work they had to do, they probably continued to do the mining, bioengineered another species to do the farming, the menial task, the easiest task.
Well, I mean, if they had all the technology to fly from one planet to another, surely they could set up conveyor belts and machinery and, you know, like we do today, and minimize the actual labor.
So if you're thinking of advanced civilization, then you would think they're not going to come here. An advanced civilization is not going to come here and mine for gold in a way that we did hundreds of years ago. They're not going to sit there in the river with a pan and pan for gold. No. They're going to have a machinery, like you mentioned, conveyor belts and everything. So they're not going to get the newly created species to run this machinery. It's too advanced. We'll get them to do the farming, to take care of them.
I mean, these guys wouldn't have to know how to read and write and stuff like that to you know what I mean, to understand this stuff, you know what I mean? This one's on, this one's off, this one's to go left, this one's to go right, you know? It can't all be done with arrows.
we do teach monkeys that, yes. Send them in the order.
Yes, true.
We're talking about an advanced civilization. And even today we wouldn't do that, and we're advanced. We enslave people is what we do. We don't bioengineer another species. We just enslave them. No, we do. It's civilization. That's what we do.
Put them in the matrix.
Right.
Put us in the matrix.
But an intelligent, advanced civilization who could bioengineer a species would give them the intelligent labor to do, because they know they're not intelligent enough to do it. It's a simple deduction. The slower, more incapable species is going to do the menial task.
Yeah. Well, so therefore Zecharia Sitchin, you know, would then take this back to extraterrestrials being God. Is that right? Do they call Yahweh a reptilian? Does he call Yahweh? I say they as in the Stitchinites, but yes, it is in Stitchin.
It wasn't Yahweh in his terminology. He did borrow from Scripture, like we were just talking. That was borrowed from Scripture, where Zecharia Sitchin made the comparison of God creating human from Earth. And so he made the comparison of this advanced species coming here and adapting the DNA of the species that was already here. Now, in his book, he writes how that we mined while they were the farmers, where I see it differently because of the advancement, and also because the Scripture says we were created to farm, humans. So that's how I piece that together.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence that shows that was a big sort of changing point in humanity, going from hunter-gatherer to farmer, that it settled societies and it changed things. It was a big sort of turning point for humanity.
Well, yeah, they say that's what actually allowed us to create civilizations and therefore proceed with technology. Now, apparently, our brain increased in size once we learned to cook meat. That's what they're telling us in academics. That's what caused the change in humanity. We went from eating vegetation and raw meat to learning how to cook our meat, and that changed somehow our brain size and patterns, and that's what academics tell us.
But then you got to look at the Hobbit people they found in that cave, the Floriensis or something. They, there's actually people that live around in that area who are all still genetically very small, and so therefore their heads and brains are smaller than ours as well. Still just as developed, but smaller in size, just proportionally.
That's proportionally, right.
Look at children. They're smaller in size proportionally, and they're just as smart as us. So they're
Yep. A child will pick up another language or a musical instrument way easier than an adult. Yep.
Right. So it's not a size, really.
No. It's connections and synapses and
it's
education and learning and what can be passed down as well. Language. Yeah. So so John, the Hopi Indians also speak of Nibiru, and the red kachina with the horns, that comet with the two horns. You see, is that right?
Comet Ison?
Yeah.
Nibiru is depicted with the horns, guys.
Nibiru is depicted with the horns. Yeah.
Because of it, when it breaks transition into our solar system, it creates a flare off the side of it. Nibiru essentially it's hyped up to be a red dwarf, which is an iron planet, and we can't see it because it's oxidized itself, and it's covered in basically microns of dirt, of iron.
It can be covered in dust, big dust cloud too.
So
also.
you can't see it.
So that's why only lizard people can live there, because they've got that film over their eyes for the dust and The way they
They have
blink.
that protective skin.
They got the yeah
Protective scale. Well, honestly, they
defensive
were
scales.
coming here. According to Sitchin, they were coming here to mine for gold so they could put the gold in their atmosphere to protect their planet. So, how does that
Yeah,
work with a brown dwarf? Or I don't know. Anyway, we
yeah.
can't see it because of that. You need an infrared telescope apparently to see it, and even then, it supposedly, according to Sitchin, comes from below the ecliptic plane of our planet, and we don't see it until it gets here, which doesn't make any sense when you understand the law of physics and astronomy. Meaning, a planet of that size coming into our solar system would cause havoc long before it got here. We wouldn't see it. But by the time our total destruction was caused to our planet from that invading system, it would have happened before it got into our system.
So what you're saying is like everything right now is in a nice balance. All your asteroid belts, you've got the very outer asteroid belt where Pluto and that is in, and then you've also got an inner one where between Mars and Jupiter. But so Nibiru is coming from outside of our outside asteroid belt, and once it comes close to it, it will disturb all them asteroids, or the majority of them at least. It will pull on them and tug on them with its own gravitational pull, and it will push them and pull them in all different directions as well, inwards and outwards probably, and you would see that first. That would be one of the noticeable things that something is coming into our solar system, is that the asteroids are being affected dramatically.
That in the sun.
Yeah. There'd be a huge bow shock, which you wouldn't see.
Oh yes, agreed. There would be a bow shock. I would not hesitate to doubt there'd also be an effect in sound waves or something. It would change it.
Vibration.
Because it's vibration, sound wave. Because it would be a bow shock coming into our solar system, pushing on. It's like tossing a rock into the middle of a
pond. Yeah.
Silent pond, that's got no ripples whatsoever. The shock wave from the rock ripples out. Anything in its path that gets pushed back towards where the ripple's pushing. So in other words, Nibiru coming towards us is pushing on our solar system. So our asteroid belts would be pushed into the center of our solar system. And it would wreak havoc on the inner planets and the sun. And we would see this. We wouldn't see Nibiru, but we would see this.
Yeah. Well before Nibiru would come into focus, you would see the effect of it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We wouldn't see Nibiru.
Yeah.
Our devastation would be, as far as life goes, annihilated before Nibiru entered our solar system.
So, John, the Hopi Indians, they do have a connection to Nibiru. Is that right?
They have their own story. It's kind of tied in the creation story and the story of destruction. They have 9 signs of destruction. Would you guys like to hear them?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
According to Hopi legend, I'm going to start with the creation here. At the beginning of time, the creator was named Tewa. He created his nephew, Sotuneng. Sotuneng created out of nothingness a place to live. Sotuneng created 9 universes or worlds, 1 for Tewa, 1 for himself, and 7 for others for additional life. These first three worlds, Topele, Topeka, and Triskura, have been inhabited and subsequently destroyed due to the corruption and wickedness of man. Each time one of the worlds is destroyed, the faithful Hopi are taken underground and saved from destruction to later emerge and populate the next world. Hopis believe that humanity is currently residing in the 4th world, Tuwakwashi. These previous worlds, like the previous worlds, Tuwakwashi is also prophesied to be destroyed because of corruption of humanity. The 9 signs of destruction were described by Whitefeather. In the first sign, they're told of the coming the coming of a white-skinned man like Pahana, but not living like Pahana, men who took the land that was not theirs, and men who struck their enemies with thunder. Pahana is the white brother and appears intimately related to the Aztecs' story of Quetzalcoatl. In the second sign, their lands will see the coming of spinning wheels filled with voices. The third sign sees a strange beast like a buffalo with great long horns, which will overrun the land in large numbers. The fourth sign and the fifth sign sees the land crossed by snakes of iron and a great spider's web. The sixth sign, we will see the land crisscrossed with rivers of stone that make pictures in the sun. The seventh sign, we'll hear of the sea turning black and many living things dying because of it. Number 8 says you will see many youth who wear their hair long, like my people, come and join the tribal nations to learn their ways and wisdom. Some believe that these 8 signs foreshadowing the end of the world have already happened. The ninth and final sign of destruction is described by Whitefeather as, quote, "You will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens, above the earth, that shall fall with a great crash. It will appear as a blue star. Very soon after this, the ceremonies of my people will cease." This idea of blue scar Kachina is reflected in Frank Waters' book. He states, quote, "The end of all Hopi ceremonialism will come when a Kachina removes his mask during a dance in the plaza before uninitiated children. This absence of ceremonialism will coincide with the destruction of the fourth world. He suggests that World War III will begin and the United States will be ripped apart, leaving only Hopis in their homeland intact. The end war will be described as a spiritual conflict with material matters." Also, he says, finishing up here, he says, according to Hopi prophecy, shortly after the blue star Kachina is visible to all, the day of purification is realized. And this is most likely in the Hopi mythology when the red star shows up. The true white brother will come to earth in search of Hopi, who steadfastly adhere to their ancient teachings. It is said that if the true white brother is successful in finding those who will still follow the true Hopi way of life, the world will be created anew, and the faithful will be saved from destruction. This kind of ties into the Rainbow Warriors prophecy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. It's quite in depth as well, really.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they're looking for two. They're basically looking for 2 signs, right? Blue star and then the Nibiru.
Well,
Yeah.
have we reached the one prophecy yet where the children of the long hair will join? Children with long hair will join the tribes. No, I know they see that as the late '60s peace movement, but have we really gotten to the point where the children have joined these tribes?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, in the U.S., we're all kinds of messed up right now.
And I say that, John, because when you mentioned the Hopi Rainbow Warrior prophecy, we're talking about a global civilization coming together with the elders.
Yes, exactly.
So the children of a global civilization coming together with the elders. That's kind of the way I see it. And I don't think we've gotten there yet.
No, we're pretty well mired in division.
Yes, it's still in division. But it is coming. It is coming. The children of tomorrow are coming. They're here now.
Absolutely, that's my belief.
Tomorrow is today. We haven't realized it yet. So, back to Sitchin and scripture and our history. Now, some may see this discussion as we are I guess Sitchin bashing. Some will also see this as scripture bashing, but what we're doing is verifying the truth of our history. We're not bashing, we are correcting. Some can't see that in their vision of of
differentiate the two, right?
Right. And we're not doing that at all. We're not calling names. We're not doing things like that. We're explaining where Sitchin went wrong in his theory with today's technology showing it and proving this. So, I mean, we're not bashing.
We are down to our last 4.5 minutes. This first show has mainly been so far as discussing Sitchin's work and stuff, and we will come back with another half hour or two shortly. Is there anything you guys want to finish off this show with?
John, you have anything to say?
No.
Okay, well, I'd like to say to the listeners that I was a Sitchin believer in his research. I had read his research and I followed his work, and I was a deep believer in what he had written in his verifications. And it was only when I started to research material outside of Sitchin's theory that I started to realize he wasn't correct in certain things he was saying. There's a fellow who worked for the Vatican decoding ancient scripture by the name of Morno Beligno, who did an excellent job deciphering what scripture's really talking about. And even though some of it correlates with Sitchin says, you have to look at all avenues to find the truth. You can't just look narrow-minded and say, okay, that's the truth. And I was a diehard Sitchin believer. It was only till I saw other avenues of work that I could correlate everything together and find out what's true or not. So we're not here to bash. We're here to get the truth.
And that's what we were discussing at the beginning as well, the difference between, somebody who just, wants to push an agenda, or somebody who's actually seeking the truth. And as JD has always stated, that, us here at Ancient Agenda, we don't have all the answers. And, that's why, we say that, cooperation is much better here than confrontation. We prefer to work together, but we also prefer to seek the truth and seek facts, which means, throwing out long-term belief systems. All of us here have done it at some stage or another, and it's a very hard thing to do for anybody at all, especially, that if you've believed something for 20, 30 years or even since childhood, it gets instilled. It's just like that number 13 being unlucky. It just unconditional, even if you don't believe it's unlucky, it comes to thought first, and then you have to sort of step around it and go, oh no, I don't believe that. But it still comes to thought first, and it's just, it's upbringing, it's a society, and it's something that we have to learn to overcome together and seek that truth. Okay, so we are finishing up now, and we will be back shortly for a part 2. And we will leave you with another word from our sponsors.
Do you have trouble sleeping? Has it affected your approach on life? Is your vision clouded with lights in the sky? Do you see people with green glowing slit-like eyes? And has your skin begun to scale? Have you been infected with reptilian MK Ultra mind disease? Well, there's a new remedy on the market from the Ancient Agenda team. And the only side effect it carries is an unknown medical term and long-forgotten cure from the ancestors called a reality check.
Houston, we no longer have a problem. Ancient Agenda Radio. Well, welcome back to Ancient Agenda Radio. This is Sitchin's Scripture Scandal, Part 2. And we are going to continue the discussion of Sitchin's work, Zecharia Sitchin, and where he went wrong, and the disinformation which ensued. So, yes, let's get a little bit more in depth in this show than our last. Now, Sitchin's Nibirian reptilian stele. The correlation through scripture identifies the stele's wristwatch as our solar system. Astronomy identifies the stele known as the draconian pole star. Now, this picture that I'm just speaking of now has just been posted to our Facebook page here. For those that are listening live, it's easy to find. You'll see a picture of what is supposed to be a reptilian with a wristwatch. I personally, I'm going to question whether this be reptilian, considering it looks very much like a bird head with wings. And as we know, birds do have scales on their legs. And I don't know about you guys, but does that look reptilian to you?
It doesn't look reptilian, but I believe the evolution from dinosaur is two birds,
Yeah.
just as a
Yes.
point of interest.
No, definitely.
And
Definitely.
probably where the reptilian name actually originated from, what John is saying. So I could see how that could take form and shape over the years, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But no, definitely doesn't look like a reptilian. No, I think you're right, Fred. Looks more like a bird. Could almost be mistaken as Thoth, Egyptian folklore.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, he's holding a pine cone, which has always been sort of represented as the pineal gland, if I understand right,
Yes.
too.
Well, we find the pine cone, in various different statues and steles all over the place, and I do believe the biggest statue of a pine cone sits at the Vatican.
Okay.
Which again ties into, the Vatican.
The biggest statue of a pine cone is currently at the Vatican.
Yes.
Is this one they built, or is this one they took from Egyptian? Because they've taken a lot of Egyptian artwork and monuments and stuff,
it's
and
an actual pine cone. What I'll do is I'll.
But you don't know if it's one they built for the Vatican or if it's one they've taken and.
Oh yeah, they must have made it.
And
no,
yeah,
I don't know anything, but I don't.
Because a lot of their Egyptian artifacts they were taken. They weren't made for the Vatican. They were taken from sites and stuff. Yeah.
Here's a picture. I have a collage here of pine cone pictures, I do believe. And the one does show the Vatican in the collage. I'm just searching for it now.
JD's pinecone file.
The pineal file. Okay, yeah, this is perfect. I'm going to throw it up right now. You can see the size of the one in the Vatican and how they have it. It's pretty cool. And this will give you an idea of representation of what the draconian is holding in the stele.
Okay, so as we mentioned before, this stele. What is a stele? STELE. What can you explain to those exactly what one is for starters? And it's a tablet.
Well,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's
a writing a story, an impression.
A drawing. Well, it is a story because there's a story being told. In each picture,
it's almost like a nice piece of art that you'd have sitting in your house, right? Like a painting, but it's done in stone.
Right. I would agree with that, like a tapestry, almost.
So are these only tablet size? Like a stele is only tablet size, or something that can just be on a wall, or a whole monument could be a stele, or...
It's... Some of them are huge, some of them are, a person's eyes.
Yeah, I think they're typically meant to be life size,
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right.
but they do range, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this one here, our astronomy identifies this star known as the Draconian Pole Star. What's the Draconian Pole Star?
Well, as Earth oscillates over the 26,000 year Orion transit that we keep count by, our pole stars change. We see 4 different ones over a period of so many thousands of years. That pole star will change.
So if you look towards the North Pole, we're talking about the main star system above it?
Right.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Right. They're circumpolar stars. They're always in the north.
Right. That's John's right.
For the northern hemisphere.
So we keep track of them as a time counting. And the Draconian pole star is what's being depicted in the stele. Now, you have to read all the stele to understand what the stele's telling you, not just see a main picture and try to guess what that is. There's little clues all over the picture, as the wristwatch signifies. So once you can get it all the pictures together, the bigger picture is the focus picture. The other ones tell the story around it.
Right, yeah. So the wristwatch is our solar system. Can you explain that in a little bit more detail? I mean, because we wear a wristwatch today for timekeeping. What this is then implying is that's not new. You know what I mean? We went from pocket watches to a wristwatch first. You know what I mean? I always assumed a watch, a wristwatch was a new concept in the last 100 or 200 years, whatever it be.
Well, with our other research, we show that there was a prior advanced civilization that had technological knowledge. They're not written in our history books. So, of course, if they had technical knowledge like we do, they had wristwatches. Now, the depiction of our solar system as a wristwatch makes sense in the fashion that's how we keep time, by our solar system. So, wristwatch, solar system, timepiece. We keep our time by how? Our pole stars. Draconian pole stars referencing this.
Yes, and this would also indicate a specific time period.
Right, but this also the wings signify that of the movement, moving from pole star to pole star.
Okay. Well, this picture here of the pine cones is up here by JD. So let's just have a little bit of a look at this then. We've got.
You'll find some very interesting pictures in there.
Yes, I mean the staff of Osiris with a pine cone at the top. I mean that's also similar to the two snakes and the what's that called, the medicine symbol.
Yeah, that's Caduceus.
That one always eludes me. And then we have, to put the pine cone on top of the staff like that, for starters, if we just want to sort of look at that one a bit more, the two snakes facing it.
You can see that as
it really holds it into,
If you understand...
Is that it's on a pole, isn't it? It's on a pole.
Yes. If you understand the history of iconography, ancient iconography, sacred geometry, the oral traditions, you can understand what the pictures, the steles, the staffs that the religious places, different sections use and things like that. You can understand the signification that they mean, and that's actually what they are, the signification. People who knew what they the picture know what it says. They don't have to talk about it to another person who knows what the picture says.
Yeah.
That's what they're all about. That's what, when you look at the staff that the Pope is holding, other members of the Vatican congregation, they know what that symbol means. So it's an unspoken word, if you want to call it that. And that's what the symbology we're looking at. This ancient symbology and stele we are looking at is the same thing.
And there in the bottom right is that largest pine cone too at the Vatican. That's huge.
Right. That's humongous. Now, when you look at the Vatican pine cone, because of it is immense size, you can get a better perception of what the pine cone's signifying, which is a type of a matrix, as you can see the way the pine cone itself evolves when it unfolds. It's in a matrix pattern, which is our solar system, a matrix pattern. Our solar system is a matrix pattern of stars and solar systems. That's the way it's made up. It's a matrix. And that is what we see in the symbology. That's why we see the two serpents wrapping around it. Travel. It's a non-stopping motion. So when we're looking at the reptilian stele, we're looking at the draconian pole star that's oscillating above us, and when our time changes into the draconian pole star, that's the message being sent. You mentioned that earlier, John.
Is there a future message to look for this time and date, or is that a current time that the stele depicted, drawn, created?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Was it created during that time our Earth was in the last position of the draconian pole star?
Yeah.
I cannot answer that.
Okay.
I don't have an answer to that. That's a math that has yet to be answered. Would they have created it during that pole star? We don't know how old these steles are. First off, we can't really date a stele because it's a stone, so there's really no way to date that. You can't really tell how old they are. They could be carried from generation to generation to generation to civilization to civilization. We don't know for sure. We put a name on them for where we found them. You know what I mean? Okay, the Sumerians had them, so they must have made them, but we don't know that they made them.
Yep. Now this picture of the draconian in the wristwatch. First off, it says Sitchins Nibiru reptilian stele. Now, how did Sitchin view this stele? How did he represent this, decode this, or understand it?
He didn't represent it as a reptilian. That's been a misrepresentation.
Okay.
He represented it as an Anunnaki.
Right. And the Anunnaki word we went through before is taken from 3 different cuneiforms, and he put them together to create one made-up word.
Yes.
Is that basics to that? Yep. And that's proven, isn't it? That's, you know what I mean? That anybody can go to the cuneiform website, that cuneiform database, and anybody can check this for themselves. So, therefore, that you know, I mean, there is enough proof out there on the internet that the word Anunnaki was made up by Zecharia Sitchin.
Well, Anunnaki's not even found in cuneiform. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah,
it's in all the in all the database whatsoever. That word does not exist. That was a word that Zecharia Sitchin made up to explain his concept of a species, off-world species.
Yeah.
And when you understand the words that he used, you can understand how he put these words together. And you can understand, really, the if you want to call it misinterpretation to how he understood it. Because the first word "and" is made up of 3 words. It's Anunnaki's made up of 3 words: "and," "nu," and "ki." So you got Anunnaki, and the first word means sky or heaven, which is referred to Digur, which is God. So here we have, and ki means earth. So we have what he put together as the heavenly gods of earth. That's how Zecharia Sitchin formed the word Anunnaki. When actually what they're talking about is solar observation in our zodiac cycle, sky, heaven, God, over earth, and not an off-world species.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. So, with that picture still, with the draconian pole star, and I don't know what to call it now, the reptilian, I don't want to call it the reptilian anymore, that stele that we've got up there with the wristwatch, there's a picture in the lower right corner of that. Now, this is of a church with the same symbol as the wristwatch. Is that right?
Yes, it's a cathedral window, yes.
Yep. Where is that?
Exactly the same symbol. Oh, I can't remember if that's Westminster or not.
Okay.
I can't remember. Put those pictures together so long ago it didn't label them.
Yeah, it's all right.
Regardless,
we know you've got lots of pictures. I know that. I'm surprised you're organised as you are. But yeah, sorry.
Actual church it is. When you look across various different churches, you will see the same symbol.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. Now I can imagine this is on multiple churches and not just the one.
Even modern ones have this depiction in their windows.
Now, do you think that? I mean, you said before how the hierarchy of with the Pope and the Vatican and stuff, how they know what the pinecone symbol would be and stuff. So they would clearly know what that symbol there is then to be allowing it and having it on their churches. Or do you think they're just putting it up and just really just having it there because it's tradition and it's a symbol that they've always used and they don't know what it means?
It depends how you look at it.
Likely.
You can look at it both ways. You can say that the smaller churches or mosques or whatever, they don't really know what the symbol means, but larger organizational churches that above them, they know exactly what the symbols mean.
And it would depend on individual priests and access and their contacts and knowledge too, I guess.
Right.
Trustworthy they are with that information.
Organization. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, they would read it just like a highway sign.
Exactly. It would be just what you said, John. It's like a highway sign. It's a directional marker. It's the next stop in the road, right? In your road. So
yeah, it's something that they would recognize right off the bat.
Well, they're taught that. See, they're taught all that. They're taught all the symbology and everything like that. So they don't have to speak it in front of people.
Plus, it would appear that perhaps one day they're set when they decide to reveal the truth.
Well, right? Unfortunately, technology's
they've got all the symbolism.
Yes, and the symbolism is what the issue became because technology has taken over, and now we can actually see the iconography for our own eyes, and they can't hide it. It's too late because it's in some of their most ancient artifacts. So it's something that can't be
a lot of work to go around destroying it.
Well, yes, it would be a lot of work to do. You'd have to hide all the stained glass windows. There's so much that would have to be hidden. It's ridiculous. That's what I'm saying. There's too much now because we have virtual technology for everyone to share.
Yeah.
It can't be hidden. It can't be hidden any longer.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean,
folks,
every
Peter
church.
Square is under construction.
And this is what I mean. There's people out there that believe in Sitchin and the reptilian alien theory and all that. They're going to be, they're upset at the fact that we're talking about a different theory because of what the facts now today present. And what I'm getting at is they might be upset with us, but this is just the beginning. There's so many out there that have recognized this for what it is too, and they're talking about it. So it's something that's going to change the future. It's not just with Sitchin's theory, it's also with the religious theory, because the truth is now becoming known due to the vast knowledge that in the technical age that can't be hidden. And a modern man of layman terms can pick it up at their own time and leisure, read it, and get the truth without ever having to leave their home.
Yeah.
We're in that day. We're in that day of age now.
I mean, I also want to point out again, like I did last show, that we aren't the only ones who have, shown where Stitching went wrong. There's plenty of other websites, there's plenty of other people who have done it, a long while ago as well. It's not a new theory at all. It's just one of those that, as you say, people will avoid looking at. And if
was wrong on everything, some of his work has been fabricated by others, which makes it look bad for him that he didn't even say or do. So we're not saying that everything he said and did was wrong, but it's
like Chinese whispers. It's just sort of exaggerated, and people have sort of added their own bit into it and then claimed it sort of as his to try and correlate their own.
Well, that happened. Yes, that happened with the Nibiru issue. That a lot of things were said about Nibiru that Sitchin never said. So there was a lot of hype about that. That
is there any
he got
any things that you can think of right now? Is there any points you can think of right now that where things that about Nibiru that Sitchin never said?
Sitchin hypothesized a planet that is an elliptical orbit throughout our solar system every 3,600 years. He didn't actually give a date at first to when that planet would come back. Another lady actually jumped on the Nibiru bandwagon, shall we say, and she gave a date. And her name is Nancy Leader, I believe it is.
Correct.
And she gave the date of 2003 when it was supposed to first come by, and it didn't. And that date has since changed, right up to 2012, and then that date changed because it didn't happen. And another person, Marshall Masters, he also jumped on the Nibiru's coming bandwagon, and he prophesized dates and everything along with Nancy Leader, and so far it hasn't happened. The dates keep continually getting pushed forward.
Yeah, there's a date this summer, which I'm sure will come and pass.
Yes, exactly. So because of this, I would call it an insult to Mr. Sitchin. He wrote another book, and he put a date on the next arrival of Nibiru. And his date is, Nibiru doesn't come back till 2900.
Uh-huh.
Whoops, they kind of missed that one, didn't they?
So here we are in 2016. We're only off by 884 years. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because no, I never realised that Stitchin had that kind of date either, and I bet you many others don't either. Well, no. So I also didn't realise that these Nibiru findings from Nancy and the other guy happened during the lifetime of Sitchin, but then it was only 6 years ago that he passed. So,
He passed away in 2010.
10, yeah.
And Nancy Leader first started this. Oh,
I think
it first started getting fame for it.
Yeah, they get worked up over comets, I think.
In around 2000, around 98 or so is when she started to publicate it and started first getting fame for stuff like this. And of course, this is what brings in, now when we're talking about the reptilian species, this all gets lumped in on this, and it's not what Sitchin said at all. Now, as far as the reptilian species goes, that came from David Icke, and it was picked up and transferred to the Nibiru theory. Now, David Icke, his first book was, he wrote a book that said, the elite of this planet hold us hostage, and they are reptilian species. And they're here to dominate us, and even the theory that there's going to be a culmination where population will be reduced by these evil aliens that control us. And that's where the reptilian theory came from, where he said these elite leaders of our population they've cloned themselves so they can look human, but they're not. They're an alien reptilian species, and you can see this in their eyes. Now, the funny thing about all this theory of David Icke's reptilian aliens theory is, if he was correct that there were evil aliens here in control of our planet, dominating our species for worldwide control and manipulation, if he was right about that, he wouldn't be alive after his first book. These evil aliens would have taken him from the planet. So for him to be allowed to do tours and write books about evil aliens controlling the planet, it doesn't have any really foundation to that, because they are not evil aliens. He's still here talking about it. But anyhow, that's where the reptilian evil alien theory first originated, got picked up, transferred to Nibiru, and now we have a theory of Nibiru with evil reptilian aliens.
Yeah, he was allowed to run with that one pretty good. He still is allowed to run.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. If these aliens were enslaving our planet,
right,
how is it he's... And they're the ones controlling our government, according to him. He even stated that, the Bush family were reptilian aliens, the Queen of England was a reptilian alien, so on and so forth. If this is true, how is the man still alive? Or how is he talking about it?
And this is where you get the videos and photos where you see Obama's eyes blinking like a reptilian or something. I mean, that sort of effects are so easy to create these days. And have you seen the video where they can take an existing video that's been pre-recorded of somebody doing a speech? They get like a Clinton or something doing a speech. Then they've got this technology where they hook someone else's head up and mouth up to it, and he's controlling the existing video and remaking it. So he can put facial expressions and make him say different things and open his mouth and, you know what I mean, tilt his head and all sorts, and it just looks so real. I mean, so...
That's today's technology.
Yeah.
They do that with dogs even.
Yeah, so I mean, anything can just so easily be manipulated, and it just makes it so hard to believe in anything these days. Anything, I mean, are they just using it just to help him look better because his speech was really flat? You know what I mean? Like, and you'd have to go and watch him live and then watch him the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, afterwards, and, it makes a mess of truth. It makes a mess of everything.
Well, the one thing that defies the logic to Zecharia Sitchin's theory of Nibiru intersecting our planet every 3,600 years is his timeline of 3,600 years. If we look back from today's point, there's nothing in our geological records that show a worldwide catastrophe. If we double that and go back 7,200 years, there's still nothing in there of a worldwide catastrophe. Now, if we go with his new date of 2,900, and we look back 2,700 years, I guess it would be, there's nothing in the geology record of a worldwide cataclysm. So his date of 3,600 years of an opposing planet intersecting our solar system, there's nothing to show for that. No geological record of this worldwide cataclysm whatsoever.
Yeah.
That alone should make a person question his theory.
Yeah, I can't imagine he overlooked that. But then again, you can see why he didn't want to answer questions.
He didn't overlook that.
There's a lot of records for what was around 3,900 years ago as well. You know what I mean? Like
Today
from
there is.
multiple.
Today
yes,
there is.
yes.
But when
I
Mr.
guess.
Sitchin wrote the books,
it's hard to find that information. You're right. The amount of books he would have to go through to retrieve that, whereas people have gone through it, sort of condensed it, and now relaying a lot of information in understandable format for modern.
That's the challenge of the internet today. If you're going to propose a new theory today with the information that we have via the internet, you better cross your T's and dot your I's, because there's too much information out there on any topic. But here we're talking about ancient history. There's too much information out there that you must know to make sure that your theory is sound. And because Mr. Sitchin wrote his books in a time when there wasn't a technological age where anybody could just verify it, mistakes were made and overlooked. And therefore we're allowed to grow. That's right. Just because you bought a book that says something doesn't mean it's right. If you can correlate what's written in that book to be a fact, then okay. But you must do the research. You just can't pick it up and go, okay, this is right. And again, people didn't have that choice. Not a lot of people had that choice 30 years ago to be able to do that. There were very few scholars that could. Now it's different.
Yeah.
That information's all over the internet, so it's easy enough to find, to verify, find.
Many people just don't want to, as you say, just aren't interested in challenging their own belief systems, and we all must do it. We must. Well, if we want to find out the truth.
If you really want the truth, you have to challenge your own belief system. That's what it's all about. And it comes down to not being afraid of change. Change is a good thing, but most people fear it. And everybody's looking for an answer. And that's when it comes down to back to scripture and Sitchin. Everybody's looking for an answer. Now, a lot of us look at the answer that resembles the answer we've already made up in our mind. We may not believe wholeheartedly in that specific answer, but it's as close as we can get to our belief system. So we gravitate to that answer because it's the one that explains our questions the most.
Yeah, people also like that powerful entity, that creator or that alien that could possibly save humanity or turn things around or give us that advancement that we need. That's I think the people that sort of abandon away from God, I think then move to the alien, to the we're still not the smartest thing around. There's still someone smart. There's still someone going to take care of us. Or there's someone that that they're just and if it's not that, there's still that spiritual side that we're going to move on to a higher power, a higher energy field, and transcend type thing. We all everybody wants to have that kind of belief as well.
Oh yes, definitely. Everybody wants that belief. Everybody wants to ascend.
So, if we want to go back to Sitchin and the Bible a little bit, can we touch on Adam and Eve?
Well, you can touch on. They're not wearing anything. It's not that kind of show, Fred.
Okay, we do have about 9 minutes left. JD doesn't want to touch Adam and Eve, but can we discuss Adam and Eve and the Sitchin and what's going on there? Did Sitchin talk about Adam and Eve? What was his theories there?
He didn't really talk about Adam and Eve so much as he correlated the God from the Bible who created Adam and Eve as the same story as the Anunnaki creating today's civilization. And they were the gods.
Yep.
That was his. He didn't really come right out and say, hey, that's like the way I just explained it. But he built a story around that theory.
I see. Yep. It's just an implication of a possible, scenario then. Yep.
Now, again, he correlates this going back to 438,000 years ago when you look through
a bit different than the 6,000 from the Bible. It's a bit different than 6,000 years from the Bible to go back 400.
Says,
yep.
438,000.
Okay.
Yet modern day science and technology has found parts that they've dated back 300 million years ago.
Yeah.
And specifically, I'm talking about metal iconography that's been brought out of coal, dated back 40,000 years ago. They've even brought a very intricate design, vase-style piece of metal artwork brought from granite, which was dated 300 million years ago. So if this is correct in their dating, who made this intricate vase-style metal artwork 300 million years ago? Sitchin dates back 438,000. There's quite a big difference there.
They're big numbers,
We're talking about
society in general. Academia would say that modern man's about 140,000 years old, and it was 70,000 years ago. You sort of get the African sort of tribe, and 35,000 years ago you got Europeans. Aboriginal Australia is said to be about 50,000 years ago. Some say a lot more. So this is what academia is sort of saying about modern human. But also you've got to remember, even just going back 12,000 years ago, we had Denisovan man and Neanderthals and modern humans and the miniature guys, the Hobbit ones from the caves, influenza something. And there was probably other races that we didn't know about either, ones that lived like the American Indians and the Aborigines that lived in balance with nature, so didn't leave much, artifacts and stuff behind for things to be found, But just in comparison to Stitchin's 400,000 and what JD was saying there about Upart being found at what, 3.8 mil?
300 million.
300 million years ago.
Yes. 300 million years
now,
ago.
Aren't we going back to dinosaur ages at this stage?
Or prior to that, way
prior to
that.
some,
Again,
there's different levels.
65 million years ago. But what I'm really
65 million, there we go.
Is our dating correct, is what I'm really getting at.
Yeah.
Is our dating correct?
Yeah.
How can we be so sure our dating is correct?
Yeah. I'm sure eventually they will come up with new dating methods and refining this stuff. But how far could they be off when they say something is 300 million years old? Could it be off by 300 million years and only be 10 million years old? Or could it just be off by 100 million years or 50 million? I mean, how accurate is the dating at the moment as well? Is it? I mean, and if that's not accurate, then what about all the other carbon dating they did on everything else?
Agreed.
All the bones and, the species and stuff?
The one thing we know is when you're looking at geology and how they date everything, and they did it by the different layers of the Earth itself. That's how they get their ages and dated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem with their dating is, in early 80s, we saw Mount Howland go off and leave the same type of Earth stratusments and layers. It was just formed. We just watched it formed.
Yeah.
Yet, if we hadn't watched it formed, our geology experts would have dated it back to the dates they use now for the rest of the world.
Exactly. That's catastrophic geology.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that proves right there that, let's just say, 10,000 years ago, there was a worldwide catastrophe. That worldwide catastrophe changed the topographical land masses in their layers and everything because of the different explosions from volcanoes and earthquakes and cometary impact and whatever.
Yep.
Changed it all. There's no way they could have dated it properly.
Yeah.
So do we know that? So when I say, religion dates us back 6,000 years, Sitchin dates us back 438,000, yet we have Uparts that apparently date 300 million. Our timelines are wrong. They're pretty much got to be scrapped.
Yeah.
There's got to be a new way to look at things.
And academia says humans are 140, modern humans are 140,000.
We know one event can change a timeline. Mount St. Helens proved that. So,
we are down to our last 2.5 minutes. So if there's any last things that you guys want to get out there, now is the time. John, you do have much?
We already cycled back to what I was going to bring up. Maybe we have time for one more Sitchin.
Go for it, John.
I'm just asking if we have time for that.
Well,
another episode. You mean a part 3?
2 minute. 2 minute warning.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Good. JD, do you have anything to throw in?
Fred, there could be another third part. I mean, we just covered Sitchin in scripture a little bit. We didn't get into any heavy-duty scripture. And then we only talked about reptilian and how it came about and the name and all that.
Would you like to go again? Do you guys have the time?
Would you like to go again? If you guys wouldn't mind, we could continue.
I'm fine with that.
John?
You mean now?
Yeah.
Or another show later?
I was thinking now. Just, while we've got the conversation going, otherwise we come back later and we'll repeat bits.
No, let's continue.
Sure. Let's continue now.
Let's continue while we're fresh and got it in our minds.
Yep.
Because there are some other things I'd like to cover. And maybe if somebody's listening, they could help.
Yeah. Please, guys, jump in, get some questions going. What is it you need to know? What are we missing? What aren't we covering for you guys? What will satisfy your curiosity? So right now we are going to take a quick word from our sponsor, and then we will be back with part 3 of Sitchin Scripture Scandal.
Do you have trouble sleeping? Has it affected your approach on life? Is your vision clouded with lights in the sky? Do you see people with green glowing slit-like eyes? And has your skin begun to scale? Have you been infected with reptilian MK Ultra mind disease? Well, there's a new remedy on the market from the Ancient Agenda team. And the only side effect it carries is an unknown medical term and long-forgotten cure from the grandsters called a reality check.
Houston, we no longer have a problem. Ancient Agenda Radio. G'day guys, welcome back to Ancient Agenda Radio. This is the Sitchin Scripture Scandal Part 3. We have decided to continue on because we do have a lot more to talk about here. And JD is going to start with posting some pictures to Facebook there again, and we're going to discuss these in a little bit more detail. So sorry for those who are listening back to this later. It's going to be a little bit hard for you, but the pictures will still be there on Facebook in the group page there. So now we have one set up here with some interesting glyphs and explanations. So JD, what's happening here with this Ru'ah?
Ru'ah. Okay, well, Ru'ah is basically what it is a Sumerian symbology for the word Ru'ah, which is also an interpretation for God that's been transferred over time. And we see also the same terminology in in Egyptian for the sun god Ra. So therefore, Ru'ah, which of course, as the picture denotes, it's not of Jewish or originality, but Sumerian. So we see a carriage of the same symbology over the years. And by looking at the Egyptian terminology for it, we understand this is the sun god Ra. Quite different than what Mr. Sitchin said it was, as he depicted as a sun god or a sky god to the earth,
Right.
which is really what the sun is, but he misinterpreted it as an alien species.
Yeah. So it's not a Jewish word, but of Sumerian origin.
Right.
We have there. Mm-hmm. So next to that, we have from Dingir to Ra,
Yes.
Sumerian seal for sky, the Sumerian Dingir, and the Egyptian sun god Ra. Now, this is showing the consecutive transformation of the symbol, but with the same meaning.
Yes, exactly. It's just the symbols being redrawn over the years, actually simplified.
Right. So the Sumerian seal for sky is the cross with the line straight through the center here. And the Sumerian seal for Dingir is the same cross but with the circle next to it and the dot in the middle, or square in the middle. What is Dingir?
Dingir, that's the Sumerian word.
That's the Sumerian
Actually,
word
it's
for sky.
It's the cuneiform. If you see the purple picture,
Yep.
with the diagram in the top in white, where it's the lines with triangles at the end of it, that's the actual depiction for the word in its phonic form. So that would be a phonic, is what you're looking at.
Yeah. It's quite complex, isn't it, really?
It is to us.
Yeah. But I mean, so is the a cursive letter of G. You know what I mean? Compared to a normal G as well. When you look at that stuff.
Well, if you look at the purple picture, the complexity behind it, as you said, Fred, and then you look at how it's transformed into the Egyptian sun god Ra, a circle with a dot in the middle, it's quite simple. They've simplified it quite a bit.
Yep. You get anything to add with that one there, John?
Yeah, just that the one of the purple looks like 4 golf tees.
Ha ha ha.
For those golfers out there. But yes, you can see where
That's a Tiger Woods special.
You can see where pre-Sumerian writing was a little bit more complex. cuneiform.
Well, it had meaning to it. Each actual line and triangle had a meaning to it.
Also,
various small differences make up the meaning to that each line.
I'd just like to add that that symbol there, the straight line with the cross, Sumerian seal for sky, we've seen that in other places as well.
The simple one, which just looks like a stick drawing, is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, Sumerian for sky. Actually, we see that a lot for the Orion symbol. And not only do we see that as the Orion symbol, we see that depicted through the Roman Catholic organization. A slight variance. The straight line actually has a circle at the top of it that looks like a P, but it's the same icon.
Exactly. That's what I was recalling.
And again,
interesting.
It leads back what history shows it to be is icon for the constellation of Orion, and which is we count at a 26,000 year interval as it oscillates above our planet, and that's where we get the 4 pole stars that change intermittently over that 26,000 period, and that leads back to the one draconian pole star, which we see in the stele that's been labeled a reptilian alien. History retracing its steps. When you do the actual footwork to history and learn the different cultures and oral traditions, doing the research itself, it leads you to the answers.
Yeah. So next we have another picture to post here. Do we know?
We're talking about transcending time, so let's put up a picture that transcends time in regards to Sumerian tradition right until today. Mm-hmm. The picture we're posting right now is a triple picture. The center picture is an Egyptian block portraying our solar system. The end block on the left is Hathor from Egypt, and then the one on the right again is the church window. Now all three of these are displaying the iconography of our solar system. So this is a carriage of time of the same symbol.
We're having a little discussion in the Facebook here about who's got the accent.
I see everyone's got lost.
just to point out, we are from 3 different countries. Myself, Fred, from Australia, JD from Canada, and John from the US. So to continue back where we were, we have a new picture here.
Yes, we just posted the triple picture of the Egyptian statue of Hathor. We have the Sumerian symbol in a block, and we also have the cathedral window art. They're all displaying our solar system. So what we have is the same symbol carried over time. Different cultures, same symbol, same language. Symbology language, sacred geometry.
Uh-huh.
This allows us better to understand where Sitchin went wrong in his interpretation.
Yep. Yep. So that's that's really fascinating to see that same symbol, in all these different places for sure. Now this is the same one that's further up as a wristwatch on the draconian bird type figure.
Yes, it's all.
Just
there's different
to point out. Yep.
birds. There's different styles of there's 4 of them that I can think of at the moment. 3 of them are always depicted as a human, but they all have wings, and the one is depicted as a draconian bird style human.
Yeah. Excuse me. That's fascinating that the reptilian or the Anunnaki stele, which could have been created quite some time ago, could be rather old, is reflected in the cathedral window art, which isn't really relatively that old.
No, they're still making windows like that. They're still doing window art like that in new churches today. So it's a symbol that's carried over. And of course, it radiates out from the sun, which is what our sun does. Radiates out from the centers, which is what our sun does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
now the Sumerian block that's showing there, you can see, yes, the center picture in gray. You can see that's the iconic Star of David.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And of course, you would look at that as 2 triangles, as above, so below.
Yep. Interlaced as well.
Right. So the iconography speaks to you in the different pieces of the picture itself.
Yeah, you can even possibly see 8 planets in the star.
Yes.
Yeah, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 within the star there.
And two outside.
2 outside on the left and right. So then, what's the top right there? The one that looks like a lolly in a wrapper, a sweet
that's
square with the
block,
triangles.
So, yeah, I see what you're saying. That's if you look really closely, you can tell that's Darth Vader's ship.
Just doing a flyby.
Just doing a flyby. Actually, he's bringing in Nibiru, which is secretly just a space station, but don't tell anyone yet. No, I have no idea what that symbol is.
Yes, no, that's right. And you got some.
You can see the one
wheat
on the
in the
left
top corner
is a type of like a wreath type of ornament on the left.
Yes, headdress. It's part of the headdress. Yeah.
And there are some pictograms below that can't be made out. But then again, this is a partial piece, so we can't read it all.
I like how that statue's just got a little cheeky grin on it as well.
She does. Look at her ears.
Yeah, the ears are fascinating.
You can see someone looking at that going, well, that's a species off world or something, because look at the ears, but that's not what it's signifying. Again, that's iconography that's telling us it's a symbol. It's telling us something that goes with the full picture. And if you look at that,
probably ties to hold the headdress back, really, before ears. The ears are probably under the headdress. You know what I mean? There'd be shell ties or something like that they use to sort of pin it back there, along where the eyes go.
They go right from the eyes. If you look at the eyes, they draw right up to the ear. But the symbology to the ear is like the folded flower that you see in the hair that surrounds the face. It's got the same center symbol, and then it breaks apart like the petals of the flower. That you could say it was a flower of symbology that surrounds. But when you look at the rest of symbology, you know that it's speaking of our solar system. So the ear symbology wrapped around like that would give us sound vibration because we hear. So it's given us a great depiction in its iconography of what it's talking about.
Yeah.
Which tells us they had a knowledge similar to ours, if not beyond.
Well, yeah, to understand the solar system and just the fact that it's circular and the sum of the center, and it all, rotates around and everything.
Well, if you understand the mythology of Hathor too, right? And she was the mother goddess and all that. So you can see the symbology to our solar system in her being the mother goddess and all this. And this is why the face is depicted in the center of it.
Yep.
And again, the ancients' symbology always took planets and stars and added bodies to them as bodies in motion, because that's what they saw them as. So they depicted them in a life form. This is through oral traditions. You find this written traditions. It goes back into the Vedics. It's history. This is the way they proclaimed it. Bodies in motion, solar system. And when you look through history, right back to the earliest stages, to the Sumerians and everything, what you find is they're all astrological experts. They all have observatories. They all know the motions of the moon and the stars. They understood the oscillation of Orion because they kept track of them. So it shows us that if you want to call it religion, their religion was astronomy and sciences. And the symbology explains that.
And they left this stuff, clearly around their towns and cities and places in monuments and steles and stuff like that, as a form to teach and to let everybody, so that everybody understands this. It wasn't clearly something that was just kept to the scholars. Obviously, you get them that know more and, are way more advanced, but, they just didn't sort of, he knows and I know, but, the rest of society doesn't know. They put this, in society's eyes to teach them and to help them remember. It wasn't originally hidden.
No, it wasn't originally hidden. It wasn't, and when you really go back into history, the carriers of this knowledge, which we would call a priest, were actually priestesses. So it was the females that were the actual carriers to this knowledge throughout different cultures. And again, that's symbology to Mother Nature and our solar system giving life, universe giving life to our solar system.
The egg sort of symbol and the fertility.
Yes.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next picture? You got a few more to go through?
More, yes. Now that we're into the astronomy part of what Sitchin was talking about, let's get into a little more. Here is a Sumerian picture that many people depict. Actually, I think it's an Akkadian stele. And many people depict this Akkadian stele as a Anunnaki in some type of flying apparatus.
Okay, so now we're moving on to what were these called, John? The flying armadas? Is that what they used to call them?
Vimana.
Vimana? Yeah, Vimana. Okay. Now that's the sort of ancient Sumerian word, if I'm correct, for flying vehicles.
Well, actually, I don't believe that is a Sumerian word. That comes out of the Hindu, or yes, that's not Sumerian.
Okay.
Particular word.
Yep. Righto.
But it's a commonly used. That's a word you're going to hear. Like if you're
Vimana comes from the Hindu Vedics.
Yep.
That's where the word Vimana comes from. It's often depicted as a flying machine. The word's used, Vimana, for flying machine. That's what it's been described as. It could mean propulsion. We don't exactly know. but it does get described as a flying machine. That's the Vimana.
All right.
And then,
this is what we've got up here with this next picture. Then is what Sitchin was referring to as Nibiru, or a spaceship.
Yes, it's just actually depicted as not really as he didn't really depict it as a spaceship, but it has been over time referred to as that. He basically depicted as the planet that the Anunnaki came from. But if you look closely, the symbol around his waist is also the symbol in his hand, which we see as the gold bracelet in the lower right corner. And that's the symbol for our 13th zodiac symbol, Ouroboros.
Yes, which is the snake.
Right, the serpent, right?
So
the
serpent circling around, and it's either normally two. Yeah, it's either biting its tail or it's a two-headed one, sort of facing each other.
Its symbology is the rebirth, never-ending cycle of life, or recycling time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just want to mention the motorcycle in the background, you folks. That's my my dog, my 5-year-old Boston Terrier. She's heard me talk for 5 years, so now it just bores her into a snoring sleep. I'll have to post a picture of the 19-pound beast sometime, so everybody knows where the snoring's coming from.
It's not John falling asleep.
Thanks, Fred.
So this is Ouroboros. This is our 13th astrological symbol, which sort of got pushed out of history. I think mainly due, from my understanding, is that 12 zodiacs and 12 months, it sort of works out a bit easier, is what they sort of claim it to be. But I think it gets pushed out with the, just because it's a 13th symbol, and it's something they decided to cover up.
Yeah,
but
we did a horse.
So Sitchin referred to this as a flying vehicle, as a Vimana or a spaceship or something.
Well, not Sitchin, but others have. He referred it to as a symbol of the planet from where the Anunnaki come from, which we know as Nibiru. Now, Nibiru, the word Nibiru, when you actually, because cuneiform has now been documented, and you can go back and research the actual word. So when you research Nibiru in Sumerian cuneiform, the actual word is Nibru, and it means crossing. So where he took the word from, his invading planet of crossing into our solar system. That's where he took the word from. But when you go into ancient Babylonian and Akkadian, the word Nibru of crossing is referring to crossing it in front of our sun with a planet. Now, we know distinctively throughout history, different cultures have kept track of planets crossing our sun, and the ones we know the most of is Mercury and Venus. Venus seems to play a lot into history, very important. So when you look at the reference of crossing in front of our sun, Sitchin picked it up as his invading planet. Babylonian and Akkadian history tells it of a planet from our own solar system, meaning Venus or Mercury, not Sitchin's 3,600-year roving planet from our solar system. So there's different known knowledge today that's been documented that refutes his claims.
Yes, yeah. So what about the Nibiru behind the sun? I mean, why does everybody think it's still hiding behind the sun? I don't understand that bit either. Is that?
Well, yeah, that goes against what Sitchin himself said, because he said it comes from below our ecliptic view, meaning we don't see it at all. It comes from below us. So to come from the sun That's not him talking that. That's someone else. Now, when you apply physics and astronomy, and we know we revolve around the sun, how could it hide behind the sun? We go around the sun.
Right. That's probably Marshall Masters or some other.
We go around the sun. So in essence, for it to hide from us, it would have to be in the exact same elliptical orbit as Earth, so we wouldn't see it if it was on the opposite side of the sun. And we know that's not the case. We know that's not the case whatsoever. It's coming
like
inbound.
Perpetual dance of hide and seek, just sort of bobbing out every now and again.
So that's not possible. It's not. It's a fairy tale fantasy. It's not.
I mean, it'd have to be sort of, the same, distance away from the Earth and in that constant sort of, perfect yearly rotation that we're going in to sort of hide behind it like that. And then when does it come out? Where's these elliptical, you know what I mean? If it's coming in from outside of the solar system in a very long elliptical, oval-shaped direction, there is no hiding behind the sun.
No, it's not possible. Nothing hides behind the sun.
Yeah, it's been said to come into the solar system really fast. For some reason, when it gets into the inner solar system, it slows down. And as you guys mentioned, it bobs a bit, and then it may stop, and then it may speed up again. I mean, it's
hide and seek.
Kind of winks at us every now and then.
Yeah.
Wink,
Are you ready? Because I'm coming.
Yeah.
Throws a little confetti at us on the way in.
No, but seriously, in Zecharia Sitchin's first account, he states that the planet Nibiru collided with the planet of Tiamat. So it created a collision course, cleaved Tiamat in half. Now, physics would say that if one planet collides with another planet and one planet was cleaved in half, what damage happened to the other planet? You can't just say that planet cleaved the planet in half and no damage happened to it. That's a car accident. You ever see two cars get in an accident and one doesn't sustain any damage?
Never.
Only when one's a truck and the other one's a mini.
Exactly. One's a transport and one's a little Hyundai.
Yeah.
Because Earth is the Hyundai and Nibiru is the transport. Okay, even a transport will sustain some type of damage.
Yes. Yep.
So if we take that into account of his correlation, then Nibiru sustained damage. The civilization that was on that planet would have sustained some type of cataclysm also.
Yeah, I mean, even if it wasn't as drastic as this one, but it would be, equally as drastic. I mean, Jesus, a planet on a planet.
Well,
yeah.
We have that theory from science that actually happened, but that went back billions of years ago before the planet had actually really formed. There wasn't life or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it correlates Sitchin's story that way, but there wasn't any life at that time, so it throws Sitchin's story out the other way.
All right, just to give a time check, we're down at our last 15 minutes. How many more pictures and information have you got to go through? Can we squeeze it in? It'll be good for time.
We got 15 minutes.
Yes.
Keep them rolling.
Keep it going. Let's throw up. I'm going to toss up this picture right now. It's just another representation, closer picture of the wristwatch, if you want to call it that, up against a different window from a different church. But it's the same symbology, so you'll see it closer.
Yeah, this is something that you guys can jump on the internet and look around yourself and find through all different churches, and even check out your own local ones and see if you find it there as well. Why not have a look?
Walk through your town, you'll be surprised what kind of iconography you'll find in the ancient church, the older churches and everything. Don't be afraid to go inside. They want you to come in.
Yeah.
Look at the stained glass windows. They're telling you a story and follow.
Ask about them as well. Find out what they know about them. Their description, their understanding. The priests and stuff as well. Why not? You might, they might tell you something that correlates, and you might be able to bring it back to us and say, hey, guess what I was just told, Fill in the stories. There's plenty more. Okay, next up. Next picture. It is here. Now again, as JT just mentioned, it is the wristwatch. This is actually... Is this a different picture entirely? A different stele?
Completely different pictures.
Yes.
Stele.
Yep.
This stele actually has a human face to it.
Yep. And a different church window there as well. This one's a window by the looks of that. Is that got glass in that?
Yes.
Yeah. Now on the left of that picture of the windows, some broken brickwork there too. So I'd say it's an older building. Been around for a little while.
And we see the wristwatch, in the stele, and dude buddy's giving us a high five.
Yes.
So he's got his hand right open, right, and he's showing you his wrist clearly, and he wants you to take note of that. That's why it's raised like that in the picture. He wants you to take note of it. That's one of the characters of the picture that you have to assemble in the whole picture to understand what it's talking about. That's iconography. That's what symbology all is. Putting all the pieces together to read the story.
I wonder if the wristband part represents the Kuiper belt or something, perhaps.
Well, it's wrapped around his wrist, and we know of a wristwatch that has a time band. So, again, we have a cycle of time.
Yeah. That's cool. I love the fact that I mean, how old is these things, So where are these statues primarily found with the wristwatches then? Are these Sumerian?
Actually, most of them were found in an area called which today is called Iraq.
Very controversial place
Very controversial.
for archaeology and stuff. I know the Germans were quite interested in that place too. So have many cultures. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And that is Sumerian area is Iraq, isn't it? I mean, back in...
Yes,
and now you
that is.
And you called
back
it...
in the day of
What do you call it?
Right. Which is where...
I believe a lot of them were found in one of the king's libraries, in and around his library.
Okay. All right.
Now, I'm going to post one picture here of Zecharia Sitchin for anybody who wants to look at it. He's covering his face. He's dressed in a 33rd degree Mason's outfit during a Mason ceremony. You can decide whether yourself if that's him or not. He is covering his face. There are different videos on YouTube depicting this that say without a doubt this is Zecharia Sitchin as a 33 degree Mason. We'll let you people decide for yourself. Those of you who know what he looks like, who've read his research.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are willing to accept that many high-profile people in this sort of game are Freemasons of some sort as well. They they really seem to have their fingers in pies all over the world too. And not all Freemasons are bad. Not all Freemasons are covering up. There's many who just go and join the club and have been in it because their fathers and their fathers and their fathers and grandfathers have been passed down, and they just do their normal everyday ceremonies and go home and go off to work, and aren't part of any big conspiracy or anything. But definitely quite sure there are high-ranking Freemasons which do, conduct themselves in, unruly manners, use their power and abuse.
The research presented against Mr. Sitchin as a 33-degree Mason. I looked at it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find enough correlation for the story to be true myself. I mean, there is the correlation, there's the video and all that, but the man's hiding his face, so you can't really tell if that's him or not, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and he could be at a dress-up party.
Him, it may not even be him. And what I'm getting at is when people present a topic that's not accepted, a lot of times others try to discredit them any possible way they can. So I'm leaving that picture up there for the members to discuss on their own, whether they can decipher through the information on the internet, decide for themselves, just like the rest of us do.
Okay, we're down to our last 8 minutes. You got a few more we can squeeze in.
I'll look through to see what else we've got left.
Is there another bit of Sitchins information that we haven't discussed? Is there anything that we've left out entirely that we could touch on? John?
I think we've covered pretty much all of it.
I don't think we want to get into
chuckle. We don't have time for that.
Chuckle.
That's a whole new show.
Slipped my mind for a second here. Hang on. It was pertaining to the area of in Iraq. What was I thinking about?
You're thinking of the
cylinder
Iraq.
seals. Yeah. I was thinking about, this is off topic, so I don't think we want to talk about it now, but one of the things that fascinates me is the Sumerian Kings list.
Oh, okay. That's a great topic to talk about. We'll have to bring that up sometime because there's a neat explanation in the title of that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to do a show on certain subjects, and then we'll have to bring up the Sumerian Kings list so we can get a better understanding of what's being said.
All right.
I don't think we can really cover that in 5 minutes.
Not a problem. That's for another show.
That's for another show.
So,
It has to do with Sumerian, so we could continue with some of this in a Sumerian when we bring that up in a different show.
Yeah.
Any questions that we don't get answered or that are asked after the show, we can bring up in that show.
So we are down to our last 6 minutes now, and I just want to remind you guys to please go and check out the Ancient Agenda website. There's plenty there for you guys to peruse through, and some food for thought for sure. We're also there on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Definitely YouTube. That's one place that where our work is openly available too. So, no last words from any of you guys at all?
Actually,
I would just mention that, we're just getting started on the radio, and we had a question. Mandy asked us if we're on there every Sunday night. We've actually, I believe we've done three of the 4 shows on Sunday, and one we did on a Friday night. That was for Friday the 13th. So we're actually thinking about maybe not sticking with Sundays, but we'd like to get some feedback on that also. So
maybe a Monday evening or something might work. Or...
Anybody listening to the show as an archive may want to come back to Facebook and put in a suggestion for us. But we can't do it on Wednesday because we don't want to compete with Mandy. just kidding, man.
Please, if there's any questions or any any topics that you think would go great for a radio show, please put forth, and we'll try and cover all information.
Well, I just posted a picture of another stele. It's actually showing the double solar system, and one appears as in his hand, and appears as the flower of life on a stem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to read this comment we just received from Vut and Shan.
Mm-hmm.
Sitchin's information is a mixture of stories from our planet's solar system and the Anunnaki solar system. So those are fantasy stories created by the Anunnaki themselves and then continued on by the Illuminati. Now, Illuminati is another type we could cover a whole show on.
Well, we've already established that the word Anunnaki doesn't really exist anyway.
No, and to establish that a word can be made up, I'm going to post this picture of a word we use from Anunnaki, and we just put the letters H-U-M in front, so we made it Humanunnaki, and which is a crossbreed of aliens and humans, just like Mr. Sitchin did. So here's a picture for everyone to enjoy. Humanunnaki.
So the picture, there's another picture that JD just posted above as well, again showing the wristwatch and holding what appears to be a stick and a flower with the same symbol on it. Could be like a flute or something. Flower of life. Yes.
That's a symbol we see quite a bit. It's quite a bit. That's a symbol we see over the world, actually, from ancient history. Flower of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's depicted in different forms, but that's the most common.
Yep. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today with our triple part show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope we covered everything that enough to help explain that Sitchin was possibly not correct in all of his work, and enough for you guys to investigate a little bit more and open your minds at least to accepting that as a possibility, or as a fact, I should say. And it's all there. Please check out that cuneiform database as well, and you can see for yourself. So, say goodbye, guys, and we're out of here.
It's been a fun show. Thanks for everybody tuning in.
Thank you all to everyone who enjoys our research and our radio shows. Please join in and help us. This is a quest for all of us and not just one of us.
Yes. Cooperation, not confrontation. Although sometimes, you need confrontation to begin with, and then we move into cooperation.
In the meantime, I'll work on developing an accent for you guys.
Oh, that'd be great, John. That would be great.
Yeah, because you sound just like me. It's just so common. All right, guys, that is us done for the day. And thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Ancient Agenda Radio.